And Krista, let's get this party started. We have a big group of wonderful young ladies here. How are you doing?
Doing great. Super excited about this topic today. You know, we've been talking about this all week, just some of the changes we're seeing and how a lot of us are maybe going to adjust to this new type of feminism and what that means. So really, really excited about hearing from all of our friends today.
Yeah, and you know, it's always great because the young voices, remember when from the gun violence, March for Our Lives, you know, how they stood up and really said, enough of you stupid adults, you're not doing anything and the politics is killing us. You know, it makes me reflect on this week when we see so much going on. Last week we had Kathy Tran, and you had such a great discussion with her about the rise of hate against Asians and just in general, just a real chaos it feels like sometimes. So it's really great to reach back to these young girls and see what they're thinking about and their vision. So
definitely, you know, especially with obviously the gun violence we've seen in Boulder, Georgia, still voting rights, still fighting the good fight. And that's what we definitely have to support them in Georgia as well. But I think what we're saying is these young ladies are going to lead us out of this. It's going to be these young women who are going to change the world.
Yeah, I do think that. I mean, we know that women are leading and the young women coming up behind are just going to teach us new things, and we're glad for that. And you know what you said about Georgia, just I saw that yesterday. And I think one thing with all this stuff going on, from the virus to the violence to everything, we can't take our eyes off of Georgia and this voter suppression, because it's really, what's really at stake is our democracy and our freedom. So once we lose that power there, I mean, we say when we vote, we win, right? Well, shit, how are we going to vote if, I mean, they're taking away the ability to vote. So everybody in this room, Heather Cox Richardson just wrote a great article about this today. Check it out. So with that said, I'm so glad you're all in the room. Let's bring it, let's have some fun. And first we're gonna learn about our history a little bit with Jessica being a women's studies. I'll call you an expert, your background is in that. You're also a teacher at Loudoun, and you started this wonderful curriculum for young girls, and I think also boys, for women's studies. So tell us all about that. And my really point of wanting you to come on were a couple things. One, I love what you're doing, how you're putting this into the curriculum and how you got it in there. And I think this should happen across the country. But then what the importance of know thyself, know thy history, and why is that really key as we talk about, you know, feminism or just really women's rights and rights of all kinds of different people. Why is history the key?
Absolutely. I think it just goes back to the adage of you can't be what you can't see. And for so long, we've been studying a very narrow, dangerous single story of history. And, you know, I am an English teacher as well. And same thing in our English curriculum. It's the same dead white men. Their stories get told over and over again. And so you have these generations of young women not seeing themselves reflected in their history, in their stories, in any of our curriculum. And the catalyst for me, I think, like for so many people in this room, where I've always been a feminist, but then I turned that feminism into activism after the 2016 elections. And,
right,
you know, just like, I need to do something to change this, you know, and if I don't, it'll keep happening again and again, year after year. So I created a women's studies curriculum for Loudoun County, and have been teaching it now for 4 years.
Yeah, and one of your students is here. I'm so excited to get to talk to her in a minute. But I do want to go back to this idea. I know for me, for instance, growing up and not seeing myself in these books, and I think that goes to people, even marginalized voices and not being included, or you'd be at the end of the page, it'd be like one artist. It was always maybe Georgia O'Keeffe or one artist or one lady who saved a flag. What's her name? It ran in there. Like they would pick out these obscure, you're just like, and that's all you
Sally
knew.
Madison.
Yeah, thank you. I can't remember her name. No, teasing. But then when I went to college, they had women's studies and I took it and it changed. I was like, oh my gosh, I felt like I found some gold.
Same exact parallel with me. I will give a little asterisk. I'm technically a millennial. If you can tell by the side part for
Oh,
you
I
Gen
see the
Zers
side
out
part.
there. Yeah,
Hey, where's
and I
the
have on
side
skinny
part?
jeans. Okay, I have a Gen Z in the classroom and she's had rocking a side part too. Um, and I think I always had these ideas of, fighting against injustices and being a feminist, but it wasn't until I took a gender and women's studies course in college that I actually had a word for it
Yeah,
and a history behind it. And until I started learning on my own and about all these amazing women, and like you said, it's like, why aren't they in our history books?
right.
And even when we talk and learn about something like the suffrage movement, you'll get Susan B. Anthony and Elizabeth Cady Stanton.
That's it.
There's like 70 years, if not more, to cover. And people didn't know who Alice Paul or Ida B. Wells or Mary Church Terrell were.
Right,
And
right. No, and then I even talked about this before, just the history of excluding women of color and that what happened back, the history of that in the suffrage movement was something that I really only the last so many years really learned more about. So we could always keep learning. So I would love to bring Nay up, Nay Sock, and see your teacher here. Now, Nay, you went through the program. I'd like to hear your view of how are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great.
Yeah,
I'm
so
really excited about this.
yeah, I'm good. We just want to hear from you now, like just what's on your heart, what's in your heart about feminism, your view of even before you even took this class with your teacher. And I'm really interested in hearing about your evolution on this.
Yeah. I feel like 2016 was a big year for like a lot of people who, were kind of like stuff needs to change. But then like 2016 made like, okay, we need to work on this like immediately. Like Miss Berg said, like Jessica Berg said, um, that was the year where I really got into it. I was in 8th grade and I was like, okay, I need to figure out ways to be more like hands-on, and try to be more active with my activism. Um, and so I was starting to find my voice, but I wasn't a very confident person. I was very confident, like openly being a feminist. So I feel like taking the women's studies class really helped me be more confident with that. Like with what I was saying, I was like, okay, no, I actually have these facts on my hands. And then it was also, um, I had a really good support system in that class. So the class got along really well. Like Miss Berg created such a like happy environment in the class where everyone got along, everyone felt comfortable with each other, you could share anything, and it was really nice. And I learned so much about so many incredible people, and I learned about so many incredible parts of the feminist movement that I never knew before because we used to learn about the same things every year. We spend more time talking about how the Confederacy is like okay in Virginia than we talk about women who, you know,
Had parts of history, right?
exactly. Like we talk about the wrong parts of history and make it seem right, and it's like really gross. Instead of talking about like the right parts of history that we could continue to improve on and continue to grow.
Yeah,
Um,
I
felt
like
really
I like the way you've put that you're really what's still happening. And I think you see it still today that we're still making excuses for people that have been doing violent things. We come up with this idea that's, about what's really happening. And I think that's why it's important that your voice is in this, you're writing your own story. So taking these classes now, you're in college. So tell me about that. Like, what is your view now? You've graduated, you're in college, and how has this empowered you? And what are you doing now in activism or with your feminism?
So I actually took a gap year because I was like, I need to just focus on me this year. But I'm definitely taking women's studies classes this fall. Like, no doubt, I will definitely take at least, one. But with my activism, I've been using social media a lot for activism. I wanted to like, go to protests and stuff, but my parents were like, it's not safe because the crowds. I was like, fine, I'll do it online then. So
hey,
I like
tell them about when we all vote.
Yes. Oh, yes. I hosted a When We All Vote event
Oh, cool.
with some other people I met in the DC area, and I encouraged people to vote. And it was like a kind of like a concert. We worked really hard on it, and I think it went really well. And that was fun. And I got recognized by like
Nice.
Michelle Obama and the like people like who were in charge of When We All Vote, which was really awesome because it really made me realize like, okay, my voice really is being heard, and my voice does have power, and it was just really validating. And the reason why I joined Women is because I saw all the things happening with the election,
Right.
the whole entire year. And it was a mess. And I was like, okay, I need to figure out some way to do something about this. So I found out about When We All Vote, and I was like, you know what, that sounds pretty cool. Probably not gonna get that far in it, but we'll try it out. And it
That's
ended up being like a life-changing thing for me. And Miss Berg was also part of the event, and it was really awesome. I had a great time, and I'm still in it. I'm still
right. That's great. I saw that because that was like in a DC organization. I think when I looked up about you that you were the one of the change makers on that, or what was the name? Was the title that you're like this is what your role was doing these get out the vote or when we vote, right? This is what's the name of the organization? Is it When We Vote?
When We All Vote.
When we all vote. Kind of like when we vote, we win. When we all vote. So now that's awesome. So thank you so much. I'm so glad you're able to be here. And just one little takeaway in the sense of for you, do you now vocally and openly say I'm a feminist? Do you find more comfortable with that? Because I know maybe before like you wouldn't identify with it. Are you finding young girls identify with it now?
Yes, I feel like it's more comfortable for you a feminist because I feel like they'll understand it more. I feel like for a long time it's been having like a bad rep, but now people are starting to realize, oh, feminism isn't like, people used to associate with like crazy women, but now that stereotype is being erased away. People are like, okay, it's actually just people who just want equality and want everyone to be free to be themselves and not be like oppressed. And that's why I think that's really great that it's like starting to have that image rather
Yes.
than the image I had before.
Well, I think, yeah. And when you let somebody tell your story, right, Jessica? If you don't own it, you don't talk about it and let people define you. I think, like you said, then we get these, feminists or male haters and all this stuff. And, that's somebody else's narrative. It's not ours. So Nay, so thank you so for coming. We so appreciate it. And Jessica, also stay in the room because we're going to circle back with maybe another teacher in Fairfax we're going to find some power in the room where we get you two together, talk about what you're going to do to bring more education like you're doing to other schools in the area. So thanks. So next up, where are we, Krista? Are we up? Do we have any more takeaways? Robin, do you want to show the board? Or are we? Okay, sorry.
The Genesis is up next.
Okay, yeah, thank you. I didn't know if she had any new stuff for us on the board. Okay, well, Genesis, how are you, friend? Come on up, Genesis and Joy.
Hi. Joy should be coming in very shortly. She's having a little bit of technical.
Well, that's okay. Well, so good to see you, and it's so exciting to see you. You are part of an organization, Girls for Change. So why don't we just tell us all about what you're doing, Girls for Change, being a feminist. Let's hear you. I know you're just a lot of fun to talk to. So go right ahead.
Oh my gosh, I love compliments. You can keep going. But I'm a part of an organization called Girls for a Change. It's really hard to talk about me without talking about my organization because I am deeply rooted all in there. But basically, Girls for a Change is an organization. I'm going to tell a little bit about that so I can tell you a little bit about me. I promise it'll all connect. But Girls for a Change is an organization that specifically deals with the unique and intersectional issues, like someone mentioned in the comments, that Black girls have to face, and the fact that we are oppressed group in both not our sexuality, sorry, maybe in our sexuality, but in our gender and as well in our race. So I discovered that program as someone who falls in that demographic. And in doing so, I've been able to really grow through that organization. And I'm currently a college student at George Mason, doing whatever I have to do. And such an organization such as Girls for a Change really helped me grow in my own aspect of who I was as a feminist.
No, when I was watching and following you, and I was laughing because you were with Jennifer McClellan, the senator, and you were like, I was stalking you. Remember, you were talking about how you were stalking
Yeah.
the senator. I'm like, this Genesis, you're just bring so much energy, and I love that this group, Girls for Change, empowered you. And one thing I think about this show, bringing on voices of young women, was also older feminists is our job. And our job is to find and support, not tell you what to do, not say, oh, your view is this should be this way, but to support your journey and provide opportunities, because this is where this is what I love when I work with young people, is to be able to give them that platform. And so Girls for Change and the Commission for Women, all these organizations, Jessica Berg with the class, what I want to say to people in the room is this is where what we need to do for you.
Yeah.
And it really has helped you. And so I was really inspired to hear all the good things you're doing. So in that sense too, now that you're in college, what are you doing on campus? And I know George Mason doesn't really have you need to start something at Mason. I'm just going to say, I haven't found the feminist voice there yet. Have you?
Yeah, no, it's very interesting because I think about everyone always talks about generational differences, and I don't know if anyone's on TikTok, but we clown the Gen Xers and the Gen Zs and millennials. No one's safe from being clowned for what we perceive to be our downfalls and our faults.
Right.
And I think it's very interesting because Generation Z is a very impatient generation. I'm just going to say it for everyone listening. We are very much so like, we are tired of waiting for change. Change is now. And it's so good that the older generation, who was kind of like, I don't want to say lying in wait, but they saw the bigger picture, something that Gen Z is very impatient about doing. And they were like, don't worry, we'll give you the voice. You need it now. We'll do it. And it's good. And thank you for the idea of starting something at George Mason. I definitely should probably do that.
I'm a good instigator.
Yes, I can tell. Because it wasn't even an idea in my head, and now it's been sparked. But I'm sorry, I think I forgot the question.
Well, the question is, what I love it, you're bringing Gen Z. I definitely agree with you're watching your generation, is that looking at the world with climate issues, different issues, the issues with really trying to fight back against this racism, really kind of break the whole table. You guys are just really kind of not waiting. You are really bringing your view to it. So, any thoughts on that, or really what feminism means to you right now? I mean, what you'd like to see.
I really like something that you said there that I really think is what feminism means to me. A lot of people say, I want a seat at the table, because so often the seat has been filled with, Ms. Berg said it earlier, but old white men. And that table is not very inclusive. But like you said, it's time to just break the table, build a new one, make it a wider table, maybe just make it a world scope, because sitting down is not what we need to do anyways. It's time to really stand up and say what we need to say. And just, we've been so, I don't want to say silent, but complacent for long, and there's been kind of duplicity. And I think now that has grown away. We are just ready to speak out and say what needs to be said, and hope that helps change. And there are physical people, there are lawmakers, educators, and we're in places we weren't 50 years ago, and yet we're still in certain places that we were 50 years ago.
Right.
And I think it's a very complex intricacy and how to balance who you are now, who we were in the past, and who we need to be in the future.
Yeah.
And the future, like everyone always says, is feminism. And so it's really making sure that we all shape the ideals towards this idea of equality and equity, so that we're teaching the younger generations this too, so that we can't just have these feminism movements for now and then they die out later. They need to be a consistent thing.
Yeah.
And that's why we have programs like the Commission for Women and Girls for Change, to make sure there's a consistency in this equality and equity and this idea that we need.
Yeah, no, I think you're so right. So I appreciate you being here today and to stay in the room with us, because if Joy comes back in, I don't know if she was able to get in. I don't know she's usually pretty savvy about getting in, so I don't know what's happening. But no, I agree. And I hope that, again, that I'll see you at Mason. I actually was over there did a program with young women at the college. So we'll just have to connect and definitely come on campus. We'll introduce you to this one program that's really good. So, all right, Genesis. And next up, Krista, I'll hand it over to you for our next segment. These girls are fantastic.
Yes, absolutely. So inspiring. So inspiring. Thank you, Genesis. So now we'll bring Blaine up. And Blaine, I am so excited to talk with you. You know, one of the reasons why we've met before, obviously in Loudoun County with Generation Ratify, just so excited about the great work that you're doing. So first, talk to us about what Generation Ratify is.
Yes, Generation Ratify is the youth-led movement to ratify the Equal Rights Amendment. Like you said, we started in right here, well, not Arlington, but like Northern Virginia, Loudoun, and working to get pro-ERA candidates elected to our state legislature. You know, once Virginia ratified, obviously we were able to take our fight to the national level, look at, you know, Congress, look at some judicial advocacy routes. So yeah, we're dedicated to getting youth involved in the movement to ratify the ERA, but also educated and aware about the movement. One thing that we noticed when we first began was that, I mean, aside from like just our co-founders and our initial team members, that not a lot of people in Gen Z or just young people in general were aware of the ERA. So especially like we are in regards to just, in addition to just getting people engaged, we want people to know about it. We want people to talk about it. This has, I think we can say maybe the peak of the ERA movement was probably in the 70s and the 80s. A lot of the people that were like, you know, leading then are still leading now. And it's obviously time, you know, for us to help that fight and help join that fight. And obviously that's not going to come without any education and awareness. So yeah, I think especially in the past month, there has been so much happening around the ERA. So it's kind of nice to see that there has been more stress and more just media coverage around the equal rights movement. So that's been really nice to see. But in addition to the ERA work, we also look at gender equality and gender justice as a whole. We really, you know, stress intersectionality in our movement. I think especially in like feminist movements, you know, women's rights movements, there is just a lot of exclusion, both in regards to LGBTQ members and individuals, and then also in regards to people of color. You know, Black women especially contributed heavily to the feminist movement, to the suffrage movement, and they don't really get recognized, and it's sad to see, and it's a shame. And I think especially after, I believe, like the 19th Amendment passed, a lot of the steam that was kind of carrying that movement forward kind of died out, and you know, there are Black women that were left without the vote. So again, really stressing that we are including all people within our movement. We are obviously stressing education, and looking at the other intersectionalities of issues. So again, gender justice or gender equality is such a broad issue. It really affects, I think, everyone at some level, whether you're aware of it or not. Obviously, different degrees to different people, but it overlaps with so many things, whether it be climate justice, whether it be criminal justice, whether it be education reform. So obviously looking at it from that perspective as well. So that's Generation Ratify in a nutshell.
Awesome. That is just excellent, Blaine. And I'm in the president of the National Women's Political Caucus of Virginia. And a lot of the founders of our organization were some of those women you mentioned in the 70s who were really fighting for the ERA. How do you think your method of outreach and engaging your generation in activism has changed over the years?
That's a great question. I think and specifically in regards to just Generation Z, or even I'll just young people. I don't want to cut it off, but yeah, it's a lot of social media. I think that's really the make or break here, because the access to education access to news, education, media has just exponentially increased since we got the internet, since we got, you know, social media platforms, and people are able to be so much more connected to the outside world than they were prior to all this. And I think a big thing is like as young people, as people below the age of 18, when you don't have the ability to vote yet, you feel as if you don't have any efficacy or power. And we really want to kind of change that narrative, because you do have power and eventually you will have the right to vote. But up until then, like, you can still make your voice heard. And I think people do appreciate young people's voices, but it's hard to have them actually stand out unless you have like a lot of them. So I think that's kind of been our narrative in regards to getting people involved, is that yes, you can, but also get your community members, get your friends, get your peers. Like no one thing is too small. It all builds up, and that's kind of been our way to kind of get people engaged. And yeah, lots of social media is our kind of main strategy. I can't really speak to, you know, strategies before that because I'm only 17. But yeah, lots of social media. And I think something interesting about GR was that, or Generation Ratify, is that we kind of left Virginia, or kind of started going out of Virginia once like COVID hit. So that was just a whole new level of like being fully digital, being fully online, utilizing our resources. But it's been great, but definitely social media is the way to go.
So a lot of people say that, or she did say, Alice Paul, who was one of the writers of the ERA, had said that by this time she was expecting for there to be a woman president. If you could look 20 years into the future, where would you ideally like to see feminism and the work that you're doing?
Yeah, I mean, ideally, I would love to see at least, 50%, at least women represented in our Congress. I would love to see women president in office. I feel like that is in store for us soon. I know Kamala Harris just became VP, and that was amazing. So I feel like that's very like a definite possibility in the near future or next couple terms. But no, definitely, I would love to see more representation of not just women, but also people beyond the binary, people who are gender conforming, transgender, etc. In our legislature, in our executive offices, in our courts. It's so important to have these different perspectives on there because we've had, a pretty much cisgender kind of white male dominated government for hundreds of years. And yes, we're making progress, but so slowly. And I think that having that increased representation and that diversified government will really not only in regards to representation bring us forward, but also just bring so many more issues to light and solve things faster. So that's what I'd love to see.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And one last question, how can people support Generation Ratify?
I love talking about GR. Yeah, so I'll plug a few things in the chat, but Generation Ratify, you can check our website out at generationratify.org. One big thing for youth organizers, and I'm sure there are a lot of young people on here, is that it is really important to get funding and donors and support because it is, as young people, we have a limited access to resources. So if you do want to pitch in, that'd be amazing. But if not, also just talking about the Equal Rights Amendment, that alone is huge, bringing it up in conversations, spreading the word. Talking about Generation Ratify, getting young people, connected. We're always looking to grow and expand. And yeah, reach out to us if you ever want to partner on anything. But yeah, I'll plug more info in the chat, but thank you.
Awesome. But I'm just going to ask one more question. I think a lot of us know that Delegate Alfonso Lopez introduced a bill to have the pre-registration, to be able to pre-register at 16 years old. And Harriet asks, are any of these groups working to lower the voting age?
Ooh, that is a great question. So I don't think Generation Ratify has a stance on that, I believe, right now, but we do have kind of a side note. Just we released our feminist framework, which is kind of our intersectional kind of policy platform in regards to how we see gender equality tying into other issues, and democracy reform was one of them, but I don't think that actually made the cut. I am personally, individually, am for lowering the voting age. I would love to vote, but I know that really depends on, looking at a more, state by state basis or a more like local basis, but I'm for it. But I know Generation Ratify is not currently working on that. If there's anyone that is working on that, would like to partner with us on that, I'm sure we'd love to be interested.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Blaine. You are just doing such fabulous work. We are all so proud of you. Can't wait to see what great things you do very, very soon. So thank you.
Sure.
So now I'm going to turn it over to Lisa Sales, who is chair of the Fairfax County Commission for Women. Lisa, it is all yours.
Thanks, Krista. Good to see everyone in the Zoom room today. So happy to be here. And really, I want to turn the focus and the spotlight onto our fairly new student commissioner, who is Annika Kandawal, in the room with us today. So proud to have her here. I know Joy is still trying to get in, and Genesis, it was great to see you. Belan, everyone, just so proud of you ladies. And so I wanted Annika just to talk a little bit about how she found the Fairfax County Commission for Women, what brought her to the table, and maybe some of the initiatives we're taking on right now. Annika, over to you.
Hi, yeah, thank you so much, Lisa, for introducing me. And also thank you to Network Nova for inviting me. This is such a great opportunity. And I mean, I'm so excited to be here. A little bit about myself. I'm Annika. I'm the at-large student representative for the Commission for Women, like Lisa said. I'm a pretty new member. It's only been a few months. It feels like yesterday that I just applied to the student representative opening. I found it through like a simple Google search. I just wanted to get involved somehow. And I did, and I'm so glad that I applied, and I'm so honored that I was selected because this is one of the most incredible experiences I've ever had. I got to meet incredible, hardworking people, especially Lisa, who exposed me to other very pressing issues like the ERA and sexual violence. And I also got exposed to the issue of a lack of women's history in our textbooks, in our curriculum. It's been really, really good for me to learn about this, and I feel like I've found a passion, you know? I also created the Ripple app, now available for download on Android and Apple devices, which is like a Fitbit for social justice. If we don't get time to review it now, I would love to demo it in the after show or the after chat. And yeah, that's pretty much me.
Well, so Annika, tell us a little bit about where and the women that together we have assembled, how it came about, how we then ended up on a phone call with Ms. Berg and Ms. O'Grady. Ms. Berg, of course, of Loudoun, and Ms. O'Grady, a teacher at West Potomac High School. Tell us a little bit about the venture you're moving out on. I know you were working really closely with me on paid family medical leave. And that's kind of an up and down with the General Assembly, but now you really found something you can sink your teeth into. So tell us about that and how it came together.
Yeah. So, I mean, first, I'd just like to highlight what Belan and Jessica were saying earlier. I think their points about the importance of just getting the youth out there, getting people riled up for things that matter. Personally, I can't even think of 5 women who I've learned about in AP US history, and this is so detrimental. Young women need to see heroes that look like them and feel like somebody they can understand. When we leave out stories, we don't feel seen, important, empowered, and I simply believe we should not accept the status quo, as so many of us Gen Z feel. Like Genesis said too, I think we have such incredible panelists who highlighted so much of how I feel. So I started working on the Women's History Project actually after another student approached the commission. She actually approached Lisa, and so Lisa brought me on thinking I'd like this, and she was so right. I think it is so important to include more women in our curriculum, and I would love to see that in Fairfax County and perhaps Nova and the Commonwealth. And just like that, with that other student, her name is Safa, we formed a group of young women who are really interested in advancing women's curriculum in Fairfax County, and we have grown to 20 students within a month. And
Wow.
this really shows that there are so many young women. They are not going to accept the status quo. We want change, and we demand an education that supports us and honors those who have come before us.
Oh my gosh, Annika, I could have said it better myself. Yes, unmute yourselves and cheer. Oh my gosh.
Hey, look at me, I'm bossing my way in. So
come on.
I'm so excited. I would love to see your app. Feminism's for everybody. Do we have time to look at your app?
Yes, we do.
Oh, thank you. Go ahead.
We're looking at it now. So here's the page, and then I'm going to log in. So if people don't have apps, they can go to the website, and the URL is in the chat. And then once you log in, this is what you see. So you want to walk us through it, Anika?
Yeah. All right. Could you go to tags? It's at the top bar. And then click on the women tag. So I'll be honest, originally this started out as a project for anti-racism. I remember, I think pretty much all of us should remember, in May of 2020, when people were really energized to get racial justice accomplished, to really see that through. And I think, like a lot of people here, it personally touched me. It changed my worldview so much, and it's such an important issue that I felt we really needed to highlight. But what I also found is that so many people could forget this once the news cycle kind of cycled it out. I think once it's not on the center stage, it loses momentum. And I really just didn't want to see that momentum lost. This is such an important issue. We've come so far and we can't go back. This is not the time to go back. And so that's why I created this app to help people sustain and move forward their commitment to racial justice and make it a movement, not a single moment. And so
Can
in
you
the
tell us?
normal app, you will see
Yeah.
plenty of racial justice resources that you can commit to and track how much time you use it. But for the purposes of our gender equality kind of movement, I added like basically a draft of kind of what it would look like if we had it for women's studies, because this app would be great for students or teachers, anybody who wants to really move forward and
So,
kind of
and any, can you tell us like a little bit, just real quick about like that first page? So how does this work? You download this on your phone. What am I doing with this?
Oh yeah. All right. So as you can see, they have kind of some quick information, and we have these 4 categories, kind of how we sort our resources. So this is like a huge resource page,
Right.
which you can like use as a Fitbit and track your commitment. So if you click on the view article, it'll lead you, or click view resource, it'll lead you there. You can see the resource. And then the real kicker is the button commit. So once you click the commit button, you can just like, yeah, click it.
Oh, wait.
Feminist. Yeah, let's click it. What happens to us? Ooh.
Now you get to log the time. So you can, this is the part where you track your commitment. So you can
very
put the
cool.
time you spent. You can even log in past dates. You can put some notes, mark it completed, and save it. And you can start it again. There's a resume button.
That's
And
cool.
we can also see, if you scroll up, the dashboard. The dashboard has all of the information.
Oh, cool. Let's see. Yeah. Oh, there we go. Oh, so it even tracks you. Hours
It's
spent.
like
and
a
everything.
Fitbit.
Like
Yeah,
a
this is
Fitbit.
where the Fitbit comes in.
I would be able to lose a lot of weight with this, Lisa.
Or gain a lot of brain power.
Yeah, my
Exactly.
This is awesome. I know people want to see it. I think you did put the link in there. So thank you. I really want to study this more and see all the different ways we can use this. And your story about the young woman you met, Sofa. Is it Sofa?
Safa.
Sorry, Safa. Well, I got connected with her, then I got her connected to Lisa, and then she connected to you. And I love how networking works.
Yeah.
And that's the key to all the work we do, is just today, how we're all connecting. I know Nay wants to already connect with everybody in the room. So this is awesome, building that girl power, as we say. But before I let you go, if you guys want to stay on the screen, I'd like to bring up Joy. Joy from Girls for Change, because it's a lot of fun to have a lot more girls on the screen. In fact, let's bring everybody up real quick before we get to Blakely. Can we get everybody up here? Just the whole team of young ladies. How awesome does this look? And Blaine, my spotlighter is awesome. Look at this group of power, right? So Joy, we didn't get to, we're going to listen to you. We're just going to unmute yourself and just tell us about your journey in feminism. Just give us your view of it.
First of all, I'd like to apologize for being late. My connection, my computer, and my phone decided that today was the day to not work, and it was really annoying. But I'm really glad that I was able to get in now. So my journey with feminism, so as a young girl, you sort of always have an idea that things are different as you're a girl. And when you get older and you start learning, like Anika was saying, you don't learn much about women. And as you get older, at least for me, and I know the same for Genesis, as we got older, we were like, where are the women? Where are the Black women, the Indigenous women, the Asian women? Where are the women, period? Because we helped build this country. We're just as important as men. And that's why when Genesis was able, she was the first one to give me a chance to work with Girls for a Change. She worked with Girls for a Change first. It was just an amazing opportunity, and it just sparked my interest in it. And it just took off. Speaking in front of people, bringing awareness, watching other girls go into the organization like I did and being able to expand their mind. It's an invaluable experience. It really changes something in you to know your own power, to know that other women have power. And it's just amazing. And something that I've recently learned about an aspect of feminism that I didn't really think of before. This is coming from my college class. I take Sustainable World. There's a huge aspect of environmental fighting that has to deal with feminism and how women aren't properly represented in that fight. And I had no idea about that. And that's something that I'm definitely going to try to work for it and bring more change, more awareness to as I learn more about it, because it was just brought to my attention. Like, that's, in retrospect, it's an obvious thought that women need to be more involved in the fight, but
Right. Well, I agree. I love your enthusiasm, and again, I've seen you guys grow even when I see you interviewing people, and you're just such good questions, such good insight, and this is great to see all you guys empowering each other. So
I just want to say one thing, Catherine.
Yes, go ahead.
Everyone in this room, we can take our fight to Richmond, because it's not enough to have an elective or 2 or 3 in 7 schools in Loudoun, or 1 in Fairfax County on women's history.
Yes.
We need to once and for all. Yes, we need more electives, right? We want women to be able to have a conversation comfortably, and men in a classroom, about really pressing issues, right? And we want to learn about women who have contribute to, developed America on their backs, right? History we never hear about, but we also need to be integrated. We're having a discussion about race in this country. Women are the poorest of the poor in this country, in the wealthiest country on earth. Black and brown women in particular, who also experience extreme forms of violence. And so what we need to do is integrate ourselves also into the American history books, into the world history books. So as we have this discussion about race and integrating race into our curriculum in the Commonwealth, we also need to talk about integrating women and women of all diverse. So that's what we can all do, and we can engage in that fight together.
No, I totally, this is where we need to go, and it's so important. And look who we have popping up on the screen, Blakely. So ladies, this is Blakely Lockhart, and she is the youngest person running for political office. So our big conversation here, hopefully you will lead and follow with Blakely and run for office, because this is where we make change too on the political side of things. So Blakely, Jessica, if you want to pop up, why not? Let's just fill this whole screen with great people. And Blakely, if you could stay with us. So Blakely, this is all about you. You're running for office in HD, I want to say, I lost my notes, but is it 36?
56.
Oh, 56. Okay. Yeah, 56. And when we were talking the other day, again, Gen Z, youngest running, and then you were like, I went to Christopher Newport and my degree was in neuroscience.
Yes. Yep.
So tell us about your journey and what made you step up to office.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Blakely Lockhart, and as of last night, we are officially on the ballot. I am the Democratic nominee, so that was really exciting. We're also making history. I am the youngest person to ever run in Virginia. I'm 22. You have to be 21. So, and I just graduated from Christopher Newport University with a degree in neuroscience and minors in leadership and biology. So at least I have the leadership part.
No, it's so impressive. It was a great talking, about your experience at Christopher Newport. I was impressed you had started, you got involved in the Black Lives Matter movement. I mean, you brought to a very kind of, I'll call it just, Christopher Newport's a great school, very white, kind of conservative campus. So what did you do to shake that place up?
Oh, I made a lot of noise. That's a bit way to put it. Yeah, so I got involved with just Black Lives Matter in general, kind of with the wave that happened last summer. I noticed my campus wasn't doing anything because we are a predominantly white institution, or a PWI. But I think there is like there's a shift that's happening, I think, towards being a little bit more liberal. It has traditionally been a very conservative school. And so I did that. And then in order to get the support I needed for the actual protest I was like about to have, I reached out to some civil rights organizations, which is basically how I ended up reactivating the NAACP on campus. So I was the president of the NAACP chapter, which that was a battle and a half to get our university to accept. And I did not stay quiet. So I proposed a ton of initiatives, and hopefully they'll start listening.
Well, you're getting organizational skills, you know, and that is what you need for running for office. We have a question in the chat. They want to know about your district, and also maybe even why you stepped up to run, how that happened.
Yeah, so a little bit about the district. It is such a gerrymandered district, like they all are. You know, it's a little tiny bit of Henrico County, which is where I live, and then it's part of Goochland, Louisa, and a little tiny part of Spotsylvania. So very odd, but it's a little bit more rural for sure, very rural area. And historically, it has been red, which we are looking to flip, which I think there is a lot of movement towards just kind of being this middle ground person. Abigail Spanberger has won this area repeatedly, so we're looking forward to that. And I got involved because, well, I was asked to get involved, but to basically change up who is running. We need to start changing that up completely and kind of break that mold of the stereotypical candidate that runs. So I do that, being a biracial woman, being a woman. I have blue hair, you know, and I'm coming for this guy.
Did you ever really think, I know, right? And did you ever have this on your mind to run, or was it that phone call that really...
I think at some point I knew I probably would get politically involved growing up. I've been an activist, and not necessarily like politics, but just a strong advocate for women's rights. That's what I've been doing. So this was unexpected, but a lovely unexpected opportunity that fell into my lap. And my main goal is to honestly get young people out, excited, interested.
How are you doing that? Because what are you bringing differently?
Yeah, so we're social media.
You need to teach us this, yes.
That's the easiest way to do it. There's just so much animosity around government right now, especially after this past year and honestly the past 4 years. And I really think a lot of young people are turned off completely from the idea of government, participating in government, and we need to change that. So we are using social media, which I think my campaign manager is also on the Zoom, so he's putting it in the chat.
Good job.
Yes, he's been putting in the chat the different links. And so we have an Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. We are making a TikTok. So that hopefully will happen the next couple of weeks, because I really also just want to show the process of running. Like, where do you start? What forms do you sign? What petitions do you need? Stuff like that, to just get more young people excited and say, oh, okay, she's doing it. That's how it happens.
I love that idea. And you told me about that. And I was like, it reminded me how AOC interacts with her people. She really takes them and shows them exactly what she's doing, how she's doing it. And I love that you're bringing that energy. So I'm so glad you came to meet everybody. And I think all these young women in the room, you may be able to get them on your team. They may be able to do some tweeting. And so I hope they follow up with you. Young women, this is where they can bring you so much that energy and that enthusiasm to get the youngest Gen Z elected. Let's do that. So thank you, Blakely, for showing up.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yay! Okay, we know we're going to hear great things about you. We'll keep making sure we're supporting you run. So with that said, I'm so glad. I hope to see you next week in the room, and let's run our credits. Let's go.